Death did not come to take him that night, came to watch him. She stood at the edge of the forest, silent as the snow falling on the monastery's rooftops, waiting for Einar to make a mistake. Because something had changed, not in the world around him, but within him. And when Death realizes that a man begins to choose her instead of fearing her, she approaches. This is the night Einar will discover whether he is still human, or whether he has already begun to become the very thing he always swore to destroy. The wind cut through the wooden walls like an invisible blade. Snow accumulated at the edges of the courtyard, muffling sounds, hiding footprints, betraying movement. Winter had turned the monastery into a potential tomb. Einar remained awake, not out of fear, by calculation. His eyes scanned the darkness beyond the torches. They were not looking for movement. They were looking for a pattern, absence of standard, break of silence. The axe rested in his hands, not as a weapon, but as an extension. He wasn't breathing fast. He breathed controlled. The cold no longer bothered him. The cold was now our ally. He understood the cold. I understood what he did to unprepared men. I understood what he did with blood exposed in the snow. Behind him, inside the monastery, the survivors slept in fragmented shifts. They trusted him. That was the real weight, not the axe, not winter, but the invisible eyes that watched him during the day and rested because of him at night. He felt the change. It felt like constant tension under the skin. Before, fear paralyzed him. Now fear organized him. Every step, every decision, every silence, everything passed through a colder, more precise internal filter. And that scared him, because there was pleasure in precision. There was satisfaction when thought became a blade. He closed his eyes for a moment, and he saw Hrafnvik, not on fire but before, the warmth of the wood, the smell of dried fish, the distant laughter. That memory still hurt, and he needed it to hurt. If it stopped hurting, something would be lost forever. A sound, not high, not abrupt, but wrong. The kind of mistake that only those who wait for perfect silence can hear. Einar opened his eyes. Nothing moved. The snow continued to fall, but there was an absence, a subtle void between two trees at the forest line. He didn't call anyone, didn't alert others. If it was wrong, it would cause unnecessary panic. If he was right, it was already too late to alarm. He walked slowly. Each step pressed into the snow unhurriedly. No rush is different from hesitation. He didn't hesitate. A few meters from the wall, he stopped. The void between the trees now seemed denser. Then he saw it, a reflection. Small, brief, metal, eyes. No, not eyes. To look. Someone was watching him. Death was not in the forest. She was after that man, and that man was not alone. Einar felt his blood heat up. Not adrenaline, clarity. That was it. The first real confrontation. Not a chaotic attack, not instinctual survival, but decision. He could sound the alarm, or I could cross the snow alone. If he chose poorly, men would die in their sleep. If he chose right, he would step on the line that separates leader from something darker. The reflection disappeared. Silence returned, but the error in silence remained. Einar took another step forward. The forest breathed back, and this time it wasn't empty. The night had decided to respond, and when the night responds, it never does it alone. The snow gave way under the weight of the second step. There was no screaming. There was no race. just silent confirmation that he was right. The dark line between the trees moved not forward, but sideways. Strategy, surrounding, testing distance, measuring reaction. They did not come in fury. They came in calculation. Einar tilted his head slightly, as if he was listening to something far away. But what he heard was not sound. It was intention. 3, maybe 4, scattered. 1 on the left, 2 in front, 1 further back. Experienced. Most men hold their breath when they notice an ambush. Einar did the opposite. He took a deep breath. He let the cold air fill his lungs. Organized fear. If he shouted now, he would awaken the monastery, but he would also begin the immediate attack. Arrows in the darkness, fire in wooden structures, confusion, blood. If he advanced alone, he could destabilize their plan, or die before anyone woke up. That was the invisible line, control. He took another step. The forest responded with a whisper of taut leather, arc. Then the first arrow came, not towards the chest, but on the ground in front of him. Notice, they didn't want to kill him yet. They wanted him to know. Einar did not look at the arrow. He looked at the point of origin. A figure moved in the shadows. Hood, face covered, the veiled. It wasn't a random attack. It was a test. He felt something new emerge under his skin. Not anger, not afraid, but acceptance. They came for him, not for the monastery, for him. The Conf A statement he already suspected now breathed before him in the form of men hidden among trees. A second arrow came. Closer, he scraped the skin off his left arm before planting himself in the snow behind. Superficial, deliberate, provocation. Einar slowly raised the axe, not in a defensive position, but visible, a clear gesture. I know you are here. Silence. Then a voice came out of the darkness, low, controlled. You evolved too quickly. It wasn't screaming, it was talk. This was worse. Einar responded with just his eyes. The voice continued, it survived the winter, organized survivors. You took out 2 of our men weeks ago. Adapted. Report. He remembered, where there is a report, there is a decision. We came to confirm. A shadow moved to the right, now visible enough to reveal upright posture. Trust. They were not hiding out of fear. They were positioned by superiority. Einar felt the weight of it. They believed they controlled the situation. The third arrow was no warning. It came quickly, straight to the chest. He turned his body. The axe intercepted the projectile with a sharp crack of breaking wood, but the force made him retreat half a step. The forest exploded into motion. 2 figures advanced simultaneously, not to kill him outright, to press, to measure. Einar advanced as well. He didn't back down. The first attacker expected defense, received attack. The axe came down low, striking the thigh before the enemy's blade completed its arc. The sound was not scream. It was air being ripped away. The second came from behind. Einar felt it before he saw it. It spun. The impact of the blades reverberated through the bones. Real strength, real training. This was not a confrontation between desperate survivors. It was technical execution. The fight didn't last seconds, lasted choices. Every move was a decision. Each decision eliminated another possibility. And then he saw it. 2 more appearing between the trees. This was never an individual test. It was capture or controlled death. Einar felt his arm burn where the arrow had cut it. He felt the blood warm his skin under the cold. He felt something even more dangerous growing inside him. Pleasure. The precision was working. He wasn't just surviving, it was dominating. The first man fell to his knees, the second retreated half a step, and the voice in the darkness spoke again. Interesting. No approval. Assessment. Knight didn't just want to kill him. I wanted to understand what he was turning into. And when 4 trained men start to retreat, it's not because they've lost control. It's because they decided to change the rules. And the rules were about to change. The change didn't come with a shout. It came with silence. The 4 figures stopped advancing at the same time, as if they shared the same breath. The injured man backed away, pressing on his bloody thigh, but no one rushed to help him. They didn't fight on impulse, they fought for purpose. Einar noticed when the circle began to open, not for escape, for something worse. The snow behind him crunched, not ahead, back. Too late. A 5th man emerged from the darkness, much closer than should have been possible. He didn't have a bow. He didn't have a long sword. It brought current. The metal snaked through the air before Einar could turn completely. The chain wrapped around the axe handle and pulled violently sideways. The impact twisted his shoulder. The axe slipped from his hand for half a second. Half a second is enough time to die. The second attacker advanced down the left flank, low blade aiming for tendons. They didn't want to kill him quickly. They wanted to incapacitate him. Einar fell backwards, using his own weight to roll in the snow. The blade only cut tissue. The cold invaded his back. But he didn't think about pain. I thought about pattern. The current returned, this time aiming for the neck. He held the metal with his bare hand. The skin burned. The cold of the iron felt alive. He pulled. The man with the chain did not expect frontal resistance. The balance is broken. Einar rushed forward before his opponent could recalculate, head against face. The sound was dry. The 5th man fell. But the circle closed again. A blade went through his right forearm. Not deep, but enough to steal strength. He felt the blood run hot against the cold of the snow. He felt the weakness trying to enter, and something inside him whispered, shout, call for help, admit that you don't control everything alone.
When did you start to like
But
this?
another whisper responded, if they come, they will die. He saw the monastery behind the wall. He saw the survivors sleeping, trusting. The decision solidified. He would fight there, alone. The man with the voice finally came out of the shadow. No hood, no rush. Face marked by old scars. Stable eyes, evaluating. The leader. You chose to move forward, he said, walking slowly across the unbroken snow. That already tells us a lot. Einar retrieved the axe from the snow with his left hand. His right arm burned. Breathing began to become heavy. Not out of fear. Accelerated calculation. 5 against 1. Injured. W market, but still standing. The leader tilted his head slightly. We want to see the exact moment you break. A minimal gesture. And 2 advanced together. Cross attacks, trained to divide attention. Einar blocked the first with his axe handle. The second hit his side. The blade went through leather and skin superficially. Real pain now. The knee almost gave way, almost. But in that almost something changed. It wasn't technical, it was intention. He stopped reacting. He started to anticipate. The third attacker tried to grab him from behind. Einar spun before the touch. The enemy's blade met his own companion. Minimal confusion. Enough. The axe rose in a short arc, not broad, necessary. It hit the collarbone. The man fell. The leader didn't move. I watched. I wrote it down mentally. Einar felt the world narrowing. The distant sound of the wind disappeared. The snow stopped mattering. There was only movement and consequence. He no longer thought about the monastery,
if the monastery is worth the effort.
Grafenvik. I was just thinking about efficiency. It would scare
Monastery
him
is safe
if
only
there
if
was
you
still
leave.
room for fear. Another blow hit him in the
It's not
leg.
about how many will
He fell
come.
to his knees. The
It's
leader
about who.
finally approached, just a few steps away. Now, he murmured. A blade was positioned against his throat, cold, stable, controlled. Einar looked directly into the eyes of the man in front of him. There was no hate there. There was curiosity. Death, again, was not rushed. I was interested. Einar felt the weight of the blade pressing lightly against his skin. 1 centimeter, maybe less. He was losing blood, strength, time. And then he realized something. They hadn't called for backup yet. They had not launched an attack on the monastery. This was never about invasion. It was about final evaluation. The leader crouched in front of him, eyes at the same level. Tell me, Einar of Grafenvik, the voice was almost soft. When did you start to like this? The blade pressed harder. A drop of blood ran down his neck. Einar didn't respond, but inside it, something responded.
The Velados will be back before the
smiled.
next moon cycle.
The smile didn't appear on his lips. It appeared behind the
Do
eyes.
they come with more men?
It was small,
With fewer
almost
doubts?
imperceptible. But the leader saw it, and that was enough. The blade pressed another millimeter against his throat. The blood ran hotter now, mixing with the snow that was beginning to melt beneath
Where will we
his
go
knees.
next?
There it is,
I don't know.
the man murmured. I wanted to see that. The others maintained their position, although 2 were breathing with difficulty. One held his dislocated shoulder, another was limping. Still, the circle remained closed. Control. Always control. Einar felt his body weaken. The right arm was throbbing. His leg throbbed where the blade had entered. The cold was beginning to invade my extremities. But something inside
Why are you
him
laughing?
was more awake
You've chosen them.
than ever.
And now
He
look
didn't
at you.
answer the question, not with words. Instead, he let the axe fall from his left hand, an unexpected gesture. The men reacted instinctively. 1 step forward, tension redoubled. Submission, withdrawal. The leader slightly tilted his head.
test.
He finally
Next time,
understood.
It will be war.
Einar raised his hand slowly. Open palms. No weapon. Vulnerable. The blade moved a few centimeters away from his throat. Error. Not big, but enough.
Stancia.
Einar did not attack the leader, attacked
fear
the
what is
ground. His body protruded sideways, pushing loose snow against the nearest man's legs. At the same time, he violently pulled the attacker's leg, which was still limping. Chain imbalance. The circle broke for half a second. He dove forward, rolling under the leader's arm before the blade could come down. He felt the cut tear the
But what
skin
if
on
he
his back.
lies?
Superficial, but burning. Ignored. He retrieved the axe from the snow with his bloody hand. He got up, not like a cornered man, but as a predator. The expression had changed. There was no more hesitation. The first man tried to retreat. Too late. The axe descended vertically. I don't scream, just fall. The leader now attacked without analysis. The blade came straight to the heart. Einar spun, allowing the blow to tear only leather. The impact was strong. The leader was different, faster, more trained. They exchanged 3 quick blows, metal against metal, breath against breath, the world reduced to the distance between the two. That's it, said the leader, blocking an attack. That's what I needed to confirm. Einar attacked again, but not with brute force, with reading. He anticipated the retreat, changed the angle. The axe grazed the leader's forearm, creating a deep gash. The man didn't scream, smiled, and then something changed again. A distant sound. Inside the monastery, wood creaking, a door being opened. They listened. Everyone heard. One of the survivors had awakened. Maybe I saw shadows. Maybe I heard metal. The leader retreated half a step, not out of fear. By updated calculation, the mission was not to die there. It was evaluating. Einar noticed. They didn't want victory. They wanted information. The leader raised his hand. Silent signal. The men began to retreat in coordination. No racing, no panic. Clean withdrawal. Einar of He took 2 steps, but the leader raised the blade again, pointing it not at him, but to the monastery. Notice, you can follow us, or it can protect what's behind you. The choice was brutal. Einar stopped. The leader kept his eyes fixed on him. Now we know. No explanation. No goodbye. They disappeared into the trees as if they had never been there. The forest returned to silence. But it wasn't the same silence. Einar remained standing for a few seconds, the heavy axe in his hand, blood running down his leg, breathing ragged now. The monastery door opened completely. One of the men came out, confused, holding a shaky torch. Einar? He didn't respond immediately, because I was listening to something deeper than the wind. I was hearing the echo of the question. When did you start to like this? He looked at his own blood on the snow, and he noticed something disturbing. He hadn't fought to survive. He had fought to prove something. And now they had what they came for. But they also left something behind. Doubt. And doubt is more dangerous than any blade. The torch illuminated the blood before illuminating Einar's face. The man who had come out of the monastery stopped when he saw the snow marked by fights. His eyes swept over the fallen bodies, then settled on Einar's rigid posture, still facing the forest. How many were there? He asked, his voice too low to be courage, too loud to be a whisper. Einar took a while to respond, because I was still counting, not men. Consequences. Enough, he said at last. Others began to appear behind the door. 2 carried makeshift spears. A woman held a kitchen knife with trembling hands. Their fear was visible, but there was something new, too. Trust. They looked at Einar as if he were a living wall. He felt the weight of it immediately. I couldn't let them see any doubt. I couldn't let them see what I felt when the circle closed. Take the wounded inside, he ordered, pointing to the man still breathing in the snow. He will not die tonight. One of the survivors hesitated. He's one of them. Einar kept his gaze steady. He will breathe. I need you to breathe. He didn't explain further. They obeyed. That scared him more than the fight. They obeyed without question. As the bodies were dragged away, Einar walked a few steps to the edge of the forest. It did not advance beyond the tree line, but he was close enough to smell the damp wood and the distance. They were far away now, but not enough. He knew this was final measurement. They would no longer come in small groups, not to test. The next time would be a decision. One of the survivors approached from behind. You are injured. He looked at his arm, for the leg, to the blood that was already beginning to harden on his clothes. I felt pain now. The clarity of the battle was passing. I'm alive. It was enough of an answer. Inside the monastery, the captured man was tied to a wooden pillar. The wound on the collarbone had been stopped with torn cloth. He was conscious and looking directly at Einar. There was no hatred in his eyes. There was recognition. Einar approached slowly. The environment was too silent. Even the wind seemed to have died down. "Your leader knows he failed," said the prisoner, his voice hoarse but stable. "He didn't fail," replied Einar. The man smiled slightly. "Exactly. One of the survivors tried to intervene. We must kill him before—" Einar raised his hand. Immediate silence. He crouched down in front of the prisoner. "Why didn't they attack the monastery?" The man tilted his head. "Because we still don't know if it's worth the effort." The answer was simple, cold, calculated. Einar absorbed every word. "And now you know?" The prisoner kept his gaze steady. "We know you're the problem. Don't threaten." The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Einar stood up slowly. He felt the survivors' gazes on his back. They needed to hear something. They needed certainty. But he wasn't sure, just perception. They are not looking for shelter. They are not after food. They're after me. He walked to the small window of the monastery and peered into the darkness beyond. "How many will come next time?" he asked without turning around. The prisoner was slow to respond. "It won't be about how many. It will be about who." This answer was suspended in the air like a sentence. Einar closed his eyes for a moment. He felt the weight of the axe still in his hand. He felt the change that was beginning to take hold. He had protected everyone that night, but the cost was not physical. It was internal. He had taken pleasure in the fight, and now I needed to decide if that was weakness or tool. He turned to the group. "No one slept alone tonight." It wasn't requested. It was the rule. The survivors began to organize themselves in silence. Einar remained awake, observing the prisoner, watching the door, observing the shadow projected by the torch on the wooden wall. She looked bigger now, and darker, and in the depths of the night, as winter continued to descend on the monastery, death had not gone away.
They come from the north.
She had just learned the shape of his face. The dawn did not bring rest. It brought lucidity. The fire in the center of the monastery burned low, casting long shadows across the wooden walls.
No one sleeps alone.
The survivors were gathered in small groups, whispering, trying to pretend normality. But the fear now had form. It had a name. Einar. He stood by the narrow window, watching the sky slowly lighten beyond the wall. The snow continued to fall, but thinner now, almost delicate, misleading. The prisoner was awake, silent, waiting. "They'll be back before the next moon cycle," said the tired man, unprovoked.
Before the next moon cycle.
Einar didn't turn around.
With fewer doubts.
With more men? With fewer doubts. This answer echoed. Less doubts. It meant a decision had been made. It meant the report was complete. It meant that somewhere beyond that forest,
Not yet.
someone had already chosen their fate. Einar felt something different that night. It was not the pleasure of precision. It wasn't the tension of battle. It was weight. He had crossed an invisible line, not just for enemies, for yourself. The monastery door slowly opened in the morning wind. One of the survivors approached him. "What will we do?" Simple question, but it contained a future. Einar looked at his hands. Wounds, cut, strong. "Let's train." The man blinked, confused. "To train? If they come for me, they will need to cross you first." There was no arrogance in the sentence. There was cold calculation. He wasn't moving away from the lead.
Einar?
It was completely taking over her. The prisoner laughed quietly. You are choosing their path. Einar finally turned around. No. Pause. I'm choosing to survive. He walked over to the tied-up man and cut the ropes binding his wrists. Survivors reacted with immediate shock. What are you doing? Einar kept his eyes on the prisoner. Tell your leader. The man rubbed his wrists in disbelief. What? Einar took a step forward, very close. Tell me I understood the test. Absolute silence in the monastery. Tell them that next time. It won't be an evaluation. It will be war. The prisoner's eyes analyzed every micro-expression on Einar's face, looking for doubt. Didn't find it. The decision was consolidated. The man took 2 steps back, still suspicious. Don't you fear what will come? Einar responded with disturbing serenity. I fear what I will become if I am not prepared. That was the truth, not the enemy, not death, but the internal transformation. The prisoner walked out through the open door and disappeared into the snow, limping slightly, but alive. The survivors were silent for long seconds, until a woman asked, almost whispering, "What if he lies?" Einar looked back at the forest. He won't lie, because now fear has changed sides. The sun began to emerge from behind the trees, turning the snow pale gold. The light revealed the scars of battle with brutal clarity. Blood, footprints, bodies already partially covered in white. Einar walked down the steps of the monastery and walked to the exact spot where the blade had touched his throat. He knelt down. He ran his fingers through the red-tinged snow. He felt that moment again. The blade, the look, the question. When did you start to like this? He closed his eyes. And this time, he didn't try to deny it. Like was not the correct term. It was something deeper, more dangerous. He liked to control his fear. I like transforming chaos into order. I like to anticipate death. And that meant one thing. He wasn't just surviving the winter. It was becoming part of him. The wind blew stronger at that moment, as an answer, as a warning. Einar stood up slowly, the gaze fixed on the forest line, because now he knew the next night would bring no test. It would bring destiny, and when death looked into his eyes again, she wouldn't find a man hesitant. I would find someone who had already decided not to back down. And in that silent moment, under the cold winter sun, Einar understood something irreversible. He was not waiting for war. He was walking towards her. And this time, I wouldn't step on the invisible line. He would destroy her.